What up, though, Detroit? Hello, world, and welcome to another episode of Detroit ByCycle. Today, as always, in the house, we have Bruno and Mr. Bobby Brown.
What's up, people?
What's up, man? What's up, Bobby?
What's going on, Bruno?
Yeah, man, just happy to be here, man.
Fellas.
What's up, Henry?
Yo.
Dude.
As you know, here at Detroit ByCycle, we are all about the love, benefits, art, events, culture, and the people we meet on bikes from the Detroit area and beyond. So, Bruno.
What up, though?
Man, do you ever stay at home at all?
No, man, I ride all the time. I ride almost every night, man. I get some miles. And I was just down at downtown Ferndale Bikeshop, but they got that spot on Peterborough and Cass with Jon Hughes' spot. And I was just down there and I just you know what it's like. You've been down there.
Boys get wild. Right?
Like, dude, it's a bike shop and it's really cool, but the scenery is hilarious, man. Like if you haven't been at Peterborough and Cass in a minute, like,
that's old Chinatown, right?
It's old Chinatown. It's right. Yeah. It's literally right across the street from what used to be Mr. Yee's.
So, how are the pups doing?
Oh yeah. Oh,
they're not pups no more.
They're
right?
not pups anymore, man. Dude, if you go into a shop, man, like you can just expect there's going to be a couple of pits in there, and they're really cool, but they're friendly, but like super friendly.
Yeah.
And there's tubes everywhere. Every pop tube, any tube with a hole in it gets shredded on their floor, man. So, what you're going to hear is my interview, and I hope you all enjoy it, man.
Downtown Detroit
Bike shop. Right. Thanks, man. So, Jon, who served as a role model for you? You know, obviously your father's in the game, in the cycling community. You know, your grandfather, right? Your mom's dad was in the game.
Yep.
Who were your role models?
Well, obviously, both of them. You know, my grandpa was in the Cycling Hall of Fame. My dad's been in bike racing and biking forever. So, I kind of follow along with what they're doing. But, in actual cycling itself, I was, late 80s, early 90s was that was my jam, that was when I was watching all the bike videos and all that. So it was the Tour de France guys, Greg LeMond, Miguel Indurain, Marco Pantani. On the mountain bike side was John Tomac and Giuliano Furtado and Missy Giovi and Tinker Juarez and, all these different people that now no one knows who I'm talking about.
Right. But, the cool thing about that time, too, was the geometry was still going through. It was still – there was a lot of innovation in the bikes, the Y bodies and the slingshots and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Cannondale had their, the Ravens and the V frames. And
right.
Trek had the Y22 frames. And,
right.
All that crazy.
That was an exciting time.
Yeah, it was cool. And then all those designs suck now, and they just went back to now they just do good bikes. So.
Right. They've settled down.
Yeah.
So, in addition to being a cyclist, you're also a mechanic. Where you own bike shops. What makes a good mechanic?
Well, what I usually say, there's a couple things. Obviously being able to fix a bike correctly. But I'd say the biggest thing is really being able to diagnose problems before they happen, or when someone walks in and you can instantly see some of the problems with their bikes and how to fix them without even putting your hands on the bike. Right. That along with what really clicked for me when I really started figuring out how to work on bikes good was the time when I realized mechanically what was happening. When I pushed this lever, it was pulling this cable to pull this brake lever a certain way. And once I figured that out in my head, then it made everything a lot easier.
All the other rules applied, right? It's just you became a good physics student.
Yeah. I mean, just the whole being able to diagnose what's going on and being able to realize how one action is causing something else to happen.
Right, that cause and effect.
Reaction to something else. That makes it makes it a lot easier to diagnose problems and figure out what's going on once you know how it works.
Right.
And so that, also another good point about being a bike mechanic is you have to be happy with not making a lot of money, but
right,
being able to ride your bike and be around bikes. So that's
right.
a big thing.
And you're around the new technology, you know what I mean? Everything that's coming down the pipe you see. So, continuing with that, what is the new technology? Where are bikes headed?
Yeah, so I mean, they're always coming out with something new. Bike companies always trying to get people to buy new bikes. So like road bikes, it's disc brakes. Mountain bikes, it's 1x setups with a million billion gears on the back. They're 12 speed. Electronic shifting's big. But in reality, the biggest thing in cycling right now overall is electric bikes, is e-bikes, and the use that they are providing and what they're going to provide. And people hate on them, but when it really comes down to it, it's one less car on the road.
Right.
So I don't understand why people hate on them.
And through our conversations being down here, you talk about the extended range of a bicycle and its ability to carry even more.
Oh yeah,
you're not having to pick an outfit based on like
you don't have to wear spandex every time. If you got a 20-mile ride, a 20-mile ride in a road bike, not a big deal. Whatever. Right. But you got to ride 20 miles to work. You're going to get there. You're going to be sweating. You got to change your clothes. You got to change your shoes. The half the day you're like, because I just rode in here, I feel disgusting. Can't take a shower or whatever. But on the e-bike, you can do a 20-mile ride in half the time. You're still out riding your bike. You're riding your regular clothes.
Same breeze, same face.
People say you're cheating. It's like, what are you cheating? Who are you? Like, I don't understand. Like, cheating is not a race.
Are you going to be judged?
Yeah.
Like, is there a judge?
What am I cheating on? What test, I made it here faster, more efficiently, and still didn't drive a car.
Right. And I'm not stinky.
Exactly.
Right. So
and I enjoyed it. I was on my bike.
So it turns out my coworkers actually are the winners.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So what are your advice for new riders?
New riders. What I say to a lot of people is, it's all about routine. It's about making bike riding part of your routine and sticking with it. The first few times are always the hardest. Your butt's gonna hurt for like a month. That's gonna happen. You got to get over that. Your legs are gonna hurt after your first few rides. It's sticking it out and getting past that. After a little bit of riding, a 10-mile ride won't become anything. And then a 20-mile ride becomes not that big of a deal. And then a 30-mile ride becomes your normal ride. And the more you ride, the easier it gets. And it not only gets easier, like instantly, but like over time. So like if you ride for 5 years, all that experience and all that muscle memory kicks in and makes it, you can take time off the bike and hop back on it. You don't have as long to get back
You're
into
riding
it.
Faster and smarter.
Exactly. And the other
it's
thing
more
too,
enjoyable.
Yeah, and the other thing with new riders is getting a bike that's a good bike that isn't a department store bike that's going to fall apart, a bike that fits them properly, and having your seat height, that kind of stuff. Having your seat fit correctly and wearing a pair of riding shorts will make a bigger difference on your butt hurting than buying the fattest seat in the world.
Right. You don't necessarily need to be rocking the Cloud 9
exactly.
for the first month.
Cloud 9 makes awesome stuff, but
yes,
their big beach cruiser saddles are ridiculous. For a beach cruiser, it's fine, but if you don't have a beach cruiser, it means you're going to be riding with your seat too low, and it's not going to be efficient or comfortable.
So, you got some events, some things that you want to shout out real quick? Let folks know.
Yeah, so during the summertime, all summertime, we do a bike ride out of the Detroit Bike Shop, downtown Detroit Bike Shop, on Tuesday nights. We also do a monthly BMX jam session where we're hanging out. A bunch of local BMXers come around. We have some handrails we set up in the street. We barbecue, party. It's a lot of fun. And then, everything at the track, the Velodrome, Alexis Velodrome. We have races there almost every weekend. It's awesome. If you haven't been there to ride it, you should come check it out.
It's an adrenaline rush just to watch.
Yeah,
and then when you're on the track, it's like, it's magnified.
And
it's certainly exponential.
It's a facility that no one else has. So the fact that we have it in downtown Detroit is pretty awesome.
Right down at Toll Playfield.
Yeah, Toll Playfield, Mac and 75.
Mac and 75 Service Drive, man. If you've seen the giant Michelin building, it looks like the Michelin Man taking a nap. That's the Lexus Velodrome. And please take 15 minutes, pull over, and check it out.
It's walk in.
It's an amazing facility, and everybody there's really proud of it, and they'll take a moment to show you.
And it's more than just bike riding. It's bike riding. We got running track. We have a fitness studio. We have a weight room. We do a lot of coaching.
So, John, I really got to ask, what was the best build you ever had? You've built hundreds, thousands of bikes.
Yeah.
What was the best build of all time?
I mean, I don't know, man. Like, there's been a ton of bike. I mean, recently we built this guy's crazy. We built this Electra Cruiser that he wanted. He liked gold, so we built it up with all Eagle 12 speed gold. I mean, it was crazy. The guy spent $3,000 on parts on a bike that was worth $500. Super cool bike. You know, hey, if that's what you want, we'll do it. You know, whatever.
Right. The rent don't pay itself.
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I used to be a huge like bike elitist. So like, when I'd show up at the start-finish line at a bike race, if you weren't on a Trek, that I thought like, I was like, get out of here, man.
Oh,
like,
you were on some peasantry.
Oh yeah, big time. I was a hater, man. And you know, I was also faster than everybody, so I could be a hater. You know?
Right.
And but like that's also when Trek was like a cool company. Then you know they changed since then. But like my favorite bike I ever had was a Trek 9900, the VW Volkswagen Team Series bike. It was half translucent pearl blue. Half was painted translucent pearl white, full XTR, full carbon, RockShox titanium SID, Mavic Crossmax wheels, you know, everything was carbon.
That was the hot stuff.
Yeah, it was like a 16.5, 17-pound bike. You know, someone stole that, of course.
No,
but
you know what I'm saying?
The best build ever is my track bike right now, man. I mean, it's a Karima track frame from probably like 98, maybe 2000 at the newest.
Right.
Full carbon, you know, French Karima frame, and now I've got a set of Karima 4-spoke wheels. I've also got a Karima disc on it. I mean, basically, however I build it up, if it was 2000 again, it would be a $20,000 bike.
Right.
You know, it's not what I paid for it, but it is the dopest bike in the world, if you ask me.
It is beautiful.
Yeah, it's sweet.
Yeah, that's
it's
a
awesome.
beautiful bike. Describe your riding style. You know, like when you ride, like how are people going to know from a distance that that's Jon Hughes?
Because I'm not going very fast. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can hang like I'm a wheel sucker, so I always sit on someone's wheel. It all depends on what kind of riding we're doing. You know, I mean, I do a little bit of everything. I do road riding, I do track riding, I do mountain biking, I do not really
downhill.
BMX, but I do dirt jump, downhill. I ride fixed gear freestyle. So it depends what kind of bike I am. I mean, usually how you can tell is because if I'm out just cruising around the streets like with friends, is I'll be on my fixed gear freestyle bike and I'll be riding backwards.
Right.
You know, and that's just because it's fun.
Right. And if you know Jon, you know.
Yeah. Like I like doing that. I like a 180 right next to you and ride backwards and talk to you in the middle of critical mass or something like that. Right. You know,
what's your favorite ride? You know, what's like an epic ride? Like if you had a chance to do a ride, what would it be? On a regular.
I mean, it's hard to say, man. I mean, I love mountain biking. Mountain biking is a ton of fun. And there's so many cool mountain bike trails around here.
Right. Potawatomi.
Yeah, I mean,
Pontiac.
DTE is awesome. I'm a big fan of Bloomer. I grew up riding Bloomer.
Right.
Bloomer's still like my favorite place.
Right. Home track.
Yeah, and I like, I love riding on the velodrome. That's just, we're lucky because we can, it's just real close and it's awesome. It's just pure riding.
Pure speed.
Other than that, man, I mean, I just like going out and cruising. I like not really picking a destination. Just like getting on my bike and be like, all right, I got 2 hours to kill, put on some music, and just go out on my road bike or my mountain bike and just fly and go down streets I've never been down and areas I've never been to. And all of a sudden I'm like, all right, I'm 3 albums in. I better turn around and go back. You know, don't pay attention to anything other than ride your bike. Yeah.
Just play the other side.
That's like a normal, like that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years with at least on my road bike, is I don't track mileage or anything like that. No. I don't make any plans. I literally get on my bike and I go, I'm going to ride for these 3 albums, and then I'm going to turn around and see if I can get 3 albums on my ride back.
Right.
And that's it.
You pick the right 6, you're going to be fine.
Oh yeah, dude. You're gone for a couple hours. It relieves all that stress.
Yeah.
But reason you're pissed off.
Count the smiles, not the miles.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. So again, I just want to say thanks for being on the show. Thanks for being downtown, man. I really do appreciate it. I know the city does. You want to shout out real quick?
Yeah, I mean, just anytime anything for bike stuff, check us out, downtown Ferndale Bike Shop, 163 West 9 Mile in Ferndale, and then 412 Peterborough, downtown Detroit Bike Shop at the corner of Cass and Peterborough. Any bike stuff you need, be happy to help you out. Come on in. We can BS, talk about bike stuff. So me and Bruno are doing anyway.
We kind of do that
stop on by,
right? We can just put a mic in front of us.
Yep.
Thanks, man. All right. Well, hey, that was my interview with Jon Hughes, and dude, I'm telling you, it's a great time down there. If you just want to hang out in a bike shop,
that's the place to be.
You can't beat it, man. You're in a prime location, and it's a good spot to hang out. So John's good people.
Good location if you're riding north or south, heading your way downtown or going home too.
Right. If you're on your way out to Midtown,
yep.
Yeah,
Make sure you stop by.
Yeah, definitely stop by.
Yeah, all right. Thanks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Uh-oh.
I get excited when we have our guest in house, and today. Are two individuals with MoGo. We have Lisa, please help me with your last name. Nuszkowski. I did not want to.
It's all good.
Mess that up.
I appreciate you having me.
Thanks for being on the show. Allow me to obliterate your name.
And we have Adriel Thorton.
Hey.
Welcome.
What's up, Adriel?
What's up,
Not
Adriel?
much.
So real quick, I always like to bring a little history into that I can provide with our guests. And I'm going to take y'all back for like 2 minutes, like 5 years ago.
I was like 3.
Like, why you got to make me so old? That's your story.
So, there was this little bar in Hamtramck called Motor Lounge, you know, and it was quiet little bar for a minute, and there was an eclectic crowd there, and 3 different rooms with 3 different flavors of music, so all kinds of people went. So it began picking up popularity. I wound up going more often, and all of a sudden I see this guy always before doors open and always after doors closed, handing out flyers, doing his thing, hustling harder before it became a slogan. Next thing you know, I actually started to work there, and this same guy used to start promoting parties and start throwing parties.
Step this game up.
Yeah.
Stepping it up. And, we definitely wound up bumping into each other a few after our events and so on and so forth. But things grow up and quiet down, and 15 years or so pass. And we pop up on a bike ride, and I see him rolling around. I say, oh, looking good, and I see you doing your thing. Fast forward, what was just a summer ago? Now I see you 15 stories tall on the side of one of the largest structures in the city of Detroit. Mr. Adriel Thornton, we go way back. Good to see you.
Likewise.
And Lisa, the executive.
We can't pronounce, and we don't know anything about.
Wait. I do know that you are the.
I want to go back to about 3 minutes ago.
Yeah. Rewind.
You are the founder and executive director of MoGo Detroit.
True story.
That's exciting.
You've actually helped propel this movement going on in the city with what you're doing. Please explain how you got here and what's going on with MoGo.
Yeah, so I have been living and working in Detroit. Just celebrated my 15th year in December. So I live over in Lafayette Park. But I was working at Wayne State University probably, 6-7 years ago. Yeah, it was 2012. When a couple of community members approached the university about starting a conversation around bike share in Detroit. And at that time, it was just starting to pop up in other cities around the country. And I think there was a real interest in, having Detroit, not sort of fall behind other cities and be proactive about that. And so we called together our very first meeting of community and business stakeholders in April of 2012 and did a feasibility study a year later, and then spent some time raising money and building additional support, and then launched what you see today, which is 430 bikes at 44 stations in 10 neighborhoods in Detroit.
Nice.
That's fantastic.
It's just amazing.
That it may be lost on this, but this was her on the ground 5 years.
To get to this point.
So I'm always.
And you know what? I think just from what I understand, the first month's rentals, the stations were just empty all the time. I mean, you should be proud of that in and of itself from what you've come up to from this point now. So, the excitement and the bike lanes that are in the city and the need for a bike share is really huge, and you came in at the right point in time.
Yeah, I mean, I think, definitely we want to recognize all the great work that was happening in the city way before bike share ever came. We had groups like Slow Roll, Tour Detroit, other neighborhood, groups, bike clubs that we had organized, and we're doing rides long before. So, what I do think bike share has been really successful in doing is bringing a bunch of new people into the fold, and really making people a lot more aware of, safe infrastructure on the streets and getting people, actually using a bike to get people around the city. So I hope we're raising the profile of that, but definitely know we're standing on the shoulders of a lot of folks who've been doing the work for a lot longer than we have.
For sure.
Right. The model for MoGo, I'm just curious, is this your own invention, or has it been tried in other cities?
Yeah, so we're a nonprofit organization, and every city does it a little bit differently. Okay. Some cities will run the program themselves. Some will contract out the work. Some will have nonprofits who do it. There's a couple that just have total private entities that do it. So it's kind of a mix. We decided on a nonprofit organization because by the time we kind of organized ourselves, and we're starting to move forward, the city of Detroit was just entering bankruptcy at that point. And so they had bigger fish to fry at the time, rather than thinking about bike share. Priorities. Biking is important, but so is paying the bills and certainly making sure people have their pensions and all of that. And so we felt we were really well positioned to, start this as a nonprofit. We had a lot of funding support around the table, and it's easier to raise money when you're a nonprofit versus going through a city. So we just thought that model worked the best for us and allowed us to kind of have the best of all worlds there.
And we're glad you used it, man. Because we really do appreciate it. I personally have talked to people that have begun using the MoGo system, and we're like, you know what? This is actually effective for me. I'm going to go ahead and purchase a bike now. I mean? So you got people, you're transitioning people into a lifestyle, and I really do appreciate that.
I think that's one of the things that, when you talk about strategy,
right?
And what you want to do, with something like this in a city like Detroit. Who knew that this would be Bike City? I mean,
we kind of knew a little bit, a little bit.
But, cause I was out there riding with you. But, you never, you don't necessarily like how this is going to work, et cetera, et cetera. But we were very strategic and very conscious of the fact that like, hey, there are these bike shops here, and there are people here. There's a bike culture here that already exists. And we certainly didn't want to come in and take anything away from or be competitors with anyone,
you have your own lane.
So the best case scenario is that, someone who maybe doesn't have a bike gets a chance. And we can talk about some of the classes and things that we do to actually get people back on bikes or on bikes for the first time in their lives.
Right.
But, if people are able to use us to get back on two wheels.
Right.
Or on wheels, period, and then end up buying their own bike. That's a win. That's the best case scenario.
Yeah, pardon the pun, but like the vehicle for change. I know that's so cheap. I wrote it down and crossed it out like a couple of times.
We've also called it the gateway drug. It's the gateway drug to serious biking. Yeah.
How many bikes do you need? One more.
So along those lines, Adriel, you being the director of marketing and community outreach. You are dealing with the public and what their needs are. Describe the fleet initially and then the upgrades you've made so far for mobility,
accessibility.
Accessibility.
Right.
Well, so I want to mention at this point too that it's so there are three of us administrative.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's it.
So you got
it's that nonprofit lifestyle.
We all have 8 jobs.
So there's so it's
so that's spread across the board. Then.
So it's not just I don't think there's any. Really, there's some things that only Lisa can do because she's the ED. But for the most part, we're all doing. So there's nothing that we do that's sort of siloed.
Gotcha.
So I just want to put that out there. But so when we launched 430 bikes, 43 stations at that point. And then we were able to partner with Ford on our 44th station, which is actually like a light station, which doesn't have a kiosk. So there's a technology advance in that piece. But I think what you're really referring to is the launch of our
adaptive
program, right? So, which is really a program that is designed for people who, for whatever reason, cannot or prefer not to ride a bicycle, a two-wheel bike.
Right.
And so, I think that we are the second big city and major city in the United States to have such a program
That's huge.
connected to bike share.
Yeah. Sure.
Right?
Yes.
So we launched a pilot last year with the support of PEAC, which is the People for
Programs to educate all cyclists.
Programs to educate all
I'm
cyclists.
just curious. This is what, one of the things I do is explain all the acronyms.
Right.
The various partnerships we have. That and pay the bills.
Right.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
And with the, generous support of some foundations, we were able to launch this pilot program where we got 13 adaptive bikes, including tandems and
Three-wheelers? Yeah, nice.
and trikes and recumbents.
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
Yeah, it was a wide range of
These are hand pedal.
Yep. There's
Oh.
Some are hand cycles, some are
No
we got
kidding.
recumbent side by side tandems
Sure.
too.
Oh, wow.
So it's
Okay.
really to meet a whole range of
Absolutely.
abilities and needs.
and we partnered with actually Wheelhouse too, who warehoused and who did the actual physical renting of the bikes
Sure.
out, and it was really to again provide access and to allow people. These bikes are really expensive.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the idea that like someone who enjoys being out in the open like that, or who wants to have that exercise, or at
Well,
least
the
just have the
freedom.
experience,
The
freedom.
Right.
I want
We
to
all
go
know
over
what
there.
it- right.
Right.
Yeah.
We all know what it's like to ride a bike, and
Exactly.
you're providing the opportunity for those who
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think
Who
that
may have lost or lost that.
I think we take for granted the ability to do something as quote unquote simple as get on a bike and ride somewhere, right? So for a lot of people, that's just not a possibility. And when you add into the expense of trying to get these bikes, it's so prohibitive, right? So having this adaptive program was really important. It's what we got written up in the New York Times for it.
Right.
And really, I mean, got a lot of attention for it across the world and across the country. But there's nothing quite like talking to some of the people who have used it, who
I'm sure
have their stories and like what they emote and what they say about how this allowed them to sometimes for the first time be able to actually get out and do something like this is
Right. A level of independence they just never even imagined.
exactly.
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
We did a couple of demo days where we brought, all of the cycles out and would let, anybody who was coming by sort of try them out and get fitted and that kind of thing. And a mom and her daughter happened to be walking through. The daughter had cerebral palsy, had never been able to be on a bike of any kind. Within, 15, 20 minutes, we had PEAC, John Waterman, who's the executive director there, got her fitted on the right type of cycle because, different needs, different, different type of cycle. And she was, riding around within a half an hour.
Wow.
And, I think that there were watery eyes.
Oh, for sure.
Mine are watering right now.
I have goosebumps because it's just another example of
Witnessing that.
a first time opportunity for someone, and then how that whets your appetite for more of that. And maybe now you want to go out and explore more. Hey, I can really do X, Y, or Z. And so I think just having access to not just a bike but a variety of these cycles has really given people that
the experience. Too.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're planning on bringing that back again.
Fantastic.
This spring it'll run spring through the fall. It's hard to do in the winter, just given
Absolutely.
the weather, and not a whole lot of people want to be cruising along the Riverwalk when it's 20 degrees outside. But
Only,
Yeah, just a few of us.
except for the diehards,
Right.
Well, you know what? Let us know when those events are. We'll post them.
For sure.
We'll give you a
definitely.
shout out to all
That's
those.
exciting.
Okay.
That absolutely is just a great thing to hear about.
Yeah.
Like giving somebody the joy of riding again.
Man.
Yeah.
It's truly one of those. You talk about things that are transformative in the city.
Absolutely.
Everything transformative.
Right.
That's transformative.
Right.
Yes.
Transforming
Yes.
one citizen at a time.
Yeah,
But,
exactly.
eventually we'll get there.
Right.
And they'll always have that story to tell, too.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So transforming the city, what you guys have done that by introducing the bike shares. Has there been any issues with dealing with the city?
No, none.
Yeah, everything's we just show up and check a few emails and go home at the end of the day.
Take some promotional photos.
Right.
No, I mean, by working with the city of Detroit, they've been really great partners of ours all along.
Awesome.
So we had our very first round, because we're expanding this year, which we'd love to talk a little bit about in a bit.
My next question.
But at our very first phase, we had to partner with the city because we got a federal grant. And to receive that money, it couldn't come to us. And so the city really acted as, not necessarily the pass-through, but sort of the administrator of that grant. Has helped us with all the grant reporting. So we had to go through a whole process with the city of Detroit to get that approved by city council and really let people know what our plans were to make this affordable, accessible, equitable for everyone. So we really spent a lot of time on the front end thinking about that kind of stuff. Not just because we had to go before council, because it's the right thing to do. And that's how we want to run our organization. And so, we have that relationship with council. We've also got the relationship with the Office of Mobility Innovations now at the city, who looks at, all of these micro mobility options, like things like scooters and bikes and shuttles and other types of services. So we've got a great partnership there. We work a lot with the Detroit Department of Transportation. We did a great pilot last summer where we passed out 2,000 free monthly MoGo passes to bus riders, really trying to underscore the use of bike
connectivity
share as transportation. So if you're taking the bus down and you're stopping at Rosa Parks, but you've got, another mile to go before you get where you need to go, there's a station right there. Hop on, get you where you need to go. And so we've really tried to partner with the city in as many ways as possible, as well as encouraging their employees who are now having to park further outside of downtown because of parking shortages.
Variety of reasons.
Is that what we're calling those now? We're calling it parking shortages. Got it.
Yeah, and that's not an editorial comment. That's just what some people will call it. But we could have a whole conversation about what that actually means. But now, employees are using bikes to get into the heart of downtown and get to the office and go to meetings and things like that. So, so it's, so far so good. It's been a really good relationship.
And you briefly mentioned that your expansion. So you're stepping out of the 313.
Well, expanding in the 313 and beyond.
And beyond.
And
my
gosh.
And the 248. Right.
We got one more to go, 586.
There you go. So, can you elaborate on – actually, I thought I just saw you have a meeting.
That was
just
yesterday? Last night. I'm sorry. Last night.
All right. Yeah. How'd that go? And
I think the more important thing is that you actually have them and you convene them, right? So far we've done we want to do one, and I will want to do one in each community that we're going to be serving. So last night was North Detroit's version, and people are they show up and they're enthused. But what these meetings really are about is getting the communities, whether they're business, all the stakeholders, right? So whether they're business owners, whether they are just people who live, work, play in that area, whatever the case may be, to get their input and to inform that we're coming and, this is what this is about. Yeah. But then the most important thing is to get their feedback. So we have these big maps that we bring, these big paper maps, and people can put dots on places that they want to see, they put a station there, or a sticky note and say, at this business right here, and it's really amazing, because people, when they see that they can actually have
some input,
and
it helps you out too, so you don't have to think for them.
Well, it does, but it's I gotta have a disclaimer that just because someone puts a dot down somewhere doesn't mean that
of course
the station's gonna go there.
It has to make sense, too.
Right.
There's some triangulations that go in.
Right, there's some different factors that go in, but again, with I think that one of the things that Lisa's done that was really important was baking in this idea of inclusivity and accessibility into how we operate. And so this is kind of the inclusive part, or part of that, is really going to the we all know that especially in a city like Detroit, that there are some challenges with people wanting to come into areas and dictate what things are, like what should be going on in those areas. That is not us. We don't want to, and we never want to.
We're not dictating the new cool.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Right? And that's why you're going there prior to just plopping your station.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I can't even imagine. And I think that again, we're all Detroiters. Like, we. The three of us on the administrative side all live in the city. On our operator side, we hire Detroiters. So the people who are working with us, as well as us, we all like are Detroit citizens. So this idea. I know that if somebody wants to come into my neighborhood and just drop something down and just tell me, remember that whole urban farm thing back in the day? Right. We just bought a lot on your block and now it's an urban farm,
Now we got these chickens and pygmy pigs,
right.
Whatever,
right. I was like, this is cute, but, but you didn't ask. Or you not even just ask, but you didn't even tell, So, I think that the community meetings and the sort of outreach in that way is important, in a more so in a ground up a way as opposed to a top down, So what was the original question?
We'll be expanding. So where are we actually expanding to?
Right, yeah.
We'll cover that. So we're expanding to 6 communities in total. So counting Detroit, we're coming into the Livernois McNichols area of Detroit.
The Fashion District.
Yep. And then we'll be in Ferndale, Royal Oak, Oak Park, Huntington Woods, and Berkeley.
Wow.
So altogether we'll have about 30 stations spread out around that area. So 10 in Detroit and then the remaining 20 in the suburban communities. And we really wanted to think about this as really creating another node. So we're calling it kind of informally MoGo North, because for bike share to work really well, you have to have a density of stations. And so, if we only had a couple stations, in one area and a couple stations like several miles away, it becomes less effective. And so we really wanted to create that level of density where people could then be moving not only within their own communities, but, I know I don't just exist in one place. We're crossing borders all the time, right? And so how can we make that easy?
Why not be
able
to do so on the bike?
On
bike
share, yeah.
Right.
So so that's coming down the pipe. Late spring, early summer, we'll be launching with another 150 bikes and 30 stations.
And that will make your bike total count.
That will make our bike total count 580 bikes and 75 stations.
Wow. My goodness. And this has been within 3-4 years?
No.
We launched May 23rd, 2017. So we're just coming up on our second anniversary.
They're still.
Yeah. We're still babes.
It seems like it, but.
Yeah. Which is actually a really, I think, a compliment.
No, it is. I think so too.
How people have really
embraced
started using it so quickly.
Yes.
I mean, even on day one, we saw people who were not a part of the ride out just taking bikes out of stations, and it was just one of those oh my gosh, it's actually working. So,
wait, Lisa used to do this really funny thing.
She doesn't do it anymore?
On occasion, but it's not. But I swear we would be going somewhere either in the car or whatever. She'd be like, ah! Because someone was riding a MoGo.
Every ride counts.
Right, I know. It was
every ride counts.
And me and Rory would we knew exactly what that meant. It was we started looking where are they? Because it was someone on the bike. Right. So it was because it was a beautiful thing to see.
Absolutely. Yeah. To see your work, people being enjoyed. For sure. And real quick before we conclude I just have how far do you see this going? I mean, what do you want to take bike share, MoGo, and the expansion?
I mean, we're open to any community that wants bike share. I mean, that's our big thing is all the communities that we're in right now and are expanding to, they all came to us and said, we have an interest. It wasn't like we sat back, in the back room and said, here's where we want to go.
Sure.
So I think we're open to having that conversation with other neighborhoods in Detroit as well as other communities throughout the region. And I think it's really about advancing an agenda where we have more transportation and mobility options, period. Bike share is not going to solve everything, but it can be an important piece.
Yeah,
it's
going to solve all part of the problem.
And improved, bus service and getting other options down the line that will really move people around. So we want to be a part of that conversation and be an example by showing, hey, communities can come together and we can come up with innovative solutions to transportation challenges. So that's what we're here to do, and we're happy to do it wherever people would like us to do it.
And you're also actually making our area smaller too, because you're making them accessible by bike.
It'd be really nice if, as we become a regional transportation system, right? Which is amazing that, we'll be among the first ones, right? If not, they're smart, whatever, but really it's us, right? Right. But it'll be, hopefully one thing that will happen is that people will begin to see like the, how ridiculous it is to have these fiefdoms. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
These kingdoms of like, if it's
municipalities or
exactly.
pockets of
and how easy it is to like come up with a system that actually serves all of us. Right.
Amen to that.
Like you said, shrinking it and everything would be a fantastic benefit of this.
Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us here, Lisa and Adriel from MoGo Detroit. Look for a station near you.
Yeah. And suggest a station on our website, mogodetroit.org. Suggest a station.
If you want them, they'll come to you.
Right.
Now, before we let you go, as always, in our in-studio guests, we have a rapid-fire section. 5 questions. Do you think you both want to give quick answers for these, or we can alternate?
Sure.
Yeah.
Whichever you prefer.
Depending on how quick we both talk. So.
I don't know how quick
we haven't heard the questions yet. It might be faster than you thought.
Right. All right, real quick. First question. Describe your first bike. Lisa?
Oh, I had a pink Huffy. Actually came across a photo with all of the bangles on it, the little like plastic things on the spokes that made the noise, the streamers, a basket with some flowers on the front.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet.
Banana
seat.
Mine was, I think it was an old school Schwinn with the long seat.
Banana seat.
I think my brother had one too, but like my first one was like that. I can't remember.
Stingray style.
Yeah. I can't remember the color or whatever. Right. I remember my big wheels, but not the first bike.
Right. Describe your favorite bike ride. Where was it, or how did you feel, or
right?
I would just say it's not just a place, but I love riding around the city at night. There's just something about being on a bike at night in the city, like the wind, when it's warm and the wind blowing through your hair, you just feel like you own the
True
city.
Story.
Yeah, it feels it's a magical feeling. So that's my favorite.
I totally agree with that, but not to pander to this crowd that's sitting in front of me. But really, I think one of my favorite bike rides was like one of the first really big slow rolls.
Right on.
Not when we were just going up to Woodbridge, but when it became like a thing. And like to see that, like,
it was a place to be.
Because I think we were all there, and that ride, and like all of a sudden looking and being like, wait, what?
Right, what just happened?
Right.
And then and it was like falling down the rabbit hole.
Every
time you show up, it'd be like a new section of nutbags.
Right. Well, that or like, and with that, like the first critical mass I did, just seeing like the amount of people,
and the variety of bikes,
and like just like looking at people and being like, I thought you were scared to drive down, let alone ride.
You show up on a penny farthing bike,
right?
I think I know the answer from both of you, but what brought you back to cycling in general, or you can be specific with MoGo?
I don't know if I don't know if I ever left cycling altogether, but was certainly really kind of up my interest. I think was just the general interest that was happening in the city at that time.
Right.
There were more group rides to go on. There were more people. Sarah and those the people doing they were part of Allied too, doing they would do midnight rides and things like that. I can't think of it to save my life right now, but a lot of these different groups and stuff that were coming up, and this whole idea that cycling could be a social justice issue, things like that, really kind of got me way more into the whole idea of this being a powerful thing, and to really do more.
It can be purposeful.
That it can be purposeful as opposed to, I think that's what really changed it from recreation.
That idea of community.
Migration, transportation.
More open community too.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely the least diehard a cyclist of everybody on the table. I feel like I'm the lightweight. But I mean, I think I think bikes are really important I've sort of seen the light around bikes as transportation, and really validating and creating safe spaces for people to be on bikes. So getting into this work has really opened my eyes to that aspect of biking and biking as transportation, and wanting to make safe and inviting places for everyone to be on the street, regardless of whether you're riding bike share, your own bike, you're riding, because you like it or because that's the only way you have to get around. So that's really what's gotten me passionate and back into the biking scene.
Good. 2 more. Describe your blank.
My blank.
That's up to you.
It'll be whatever.
Hey, man, we fill in our blanks around here any way we want. We don't judge.
I mean, we can move on if you care to.
Adriel, would you like to do that first?
I love my people, man.
Yeah, right?
Right?
Your favorite thing, whatever. It's your opportunity to speak.
Describe my favorite.
Describe your
record.
whatever.
Yes.
My favorite record.
Right.
Okay.
What is it?
Right, which is actually really tough, which is how I say. All I would say is that it was made by Prince.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be something.
Right.
Yeah, we know. Yeah, we know.
Right. You know. So.
Lisa?
I'll say describe one of my favorite things to do. I'm a huge movie buff, so the Oscars are coming
Oh,
up
yeah, this weekend.
So
You're
I have
prepping.
like my ballot. I mean, I've seen like several dozen of the movies out of the 52. So yeah, I'm an obsessive movie watcher. Love it.
Great. Last question. One wish for Detroit.
There's so many. Wish for.
I know what my wish for Detroit is. I want us to maintain and honor the heritage that we have as the motor city, but really redesign the city in a way that's around people and not around the car. I think a lot of the choices we've made around the personal automobile has devastated communities. I mean, freeways that have carved up and destroyed neighborhoods. Yeah.
Paradise Valley.
Black Bottom, exactly.
Right.
And so I think that really thinking about how, as we're building and rebuilding certain parts of the city, thinking about ways to address those wrongs and bring communities together. And the city can't just be a pass through for people to get in and out of,
Agreed.
At the beginning and end of the workday. And so, my biggest wish for Detroit is that we tackle some of those big issues. And I think, bikes are obviously a tiny piece of that bigger transportation question, but I think it's something that we're going to have to tackle as a region, if we're going to have a successful, prosperous city for all.
Right on.
That was good.
Right. That's rough, dude. What you got?
Let me top that by
He's
saying.
like, I want to go to a good show this weekend.
Right. No, but actually my one wish for Detroit would be that we learn to love ourselves again, and with that, love each other.
Right. Nice.
I think that there's been some of it systematic. This idea of the sort of self-hate that's been built in, right? And by that I mean, people not supporting like their own neighborhood businesses because they don't feel like they're good enough. Or when something new comes in and gets built or something like that, in a sense, they say you get this idea that people really think they don't deserve nice things. They don't deserve good things. They don't deserve redevelopment in their neighborhoods. They don't deserve, these things that are happening, or that they deserve to be a part of it. And I think that comes from, again, like years and years and generations of people who have been taught that they aren't worthy of being loved by others or themselves. I think that has led to increased violence, where people disrespect their own, they just don't love themselves, so they have no love for
anybody
people.
else.
Right. So I really do wish that we get to, you see it, and some things like people take care of the lawns and do all that stuff, but there's this real, I think, need for the idea of Detroiters loving themselves, falling in love with themselves and the city, and like what made Detroit, and then loving other people in that mix, because that's we can have all the new jobs come in, we can have new bike lanes, we can have all this stuff happen, but until I feel like that becomes a movement, the love movement, try Bucko SL.
But if you don't know, look it up.
Right. But I really wish that there was a love movement in Detroit. That we really that spread, like so many other things spread.
Fantastic. That's been the rapid fire.
Yeah, dude.
But well worth it.
Yeah, wasn't that rapid?
Really I mean, that was brilliant. Really appreciate it.
I really do appreciate both of y'all coming on,
you.
man.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks,
so much
Lisa.
for
Stepping up,
Thanks,
making
Adriel,
us sound
for
good.
Same for us.
All right, Bobby.
Well, you know where to find us at. We're on the social medias. We're on the interwebs. You can Twitter us, all that good things. Detroit ByCycle, ByCycle. Leave us comments, questions, concerns, shout outs. We want to again thank Lisa and Adriel from MoGo for coming in.
Yes.
Definitely try out the MoGos. One other thing, I know you all have community ambassador program. You all are looking for folks this year. Mm-hmm. You want to touch on that real quick?
Sure. It's the neighborhood ambassadors.
Neighborhood ambassadors.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Same thing. Community ambassadors. So it'll be some tweaks to it this year. But as in the past, one of the things, again, like we said, we really want to be intentional about how we operate in different places. So one of the programs that we came up with was to have someone from all the neighborhoods that we operate in be a part of this and be an advocate for us on one hand, but also be an advocate for the people in the neighborhood who may come across this station and not know anything about it. So this is a person they can go to.
Right.
And this is a person who has roots in that community, who hopefully is somewhat well known to within the community, but who has no problem with going and approaching and representing and saying, "Hey, let's go on a bike ride, right? Or let's do a sign up thing where if you, for like the access pass, for instance, if you want to have access to the bikes, here's this way we can do it, and we can do it right here. Help you out, like whatever it takes." So we'll be, especially with the expansion, we're looking for people in those areas, but also Northwest Detroit, and then, throughout our current service area as well.
Right. Cool.
And they can go to, actually, if they go to our website, under, what button is that under?
If you look at the bottom of the page, jobs.
Yeah, jobs. It's,
jobs. The posting is there.
Cool.
JOBs.
And those links to MoGo and the neighborhood ambassador program will definitely be in our show notes.
Nice.
So definitely go check that out, people.
Right. Thanks.
What
else is going on this week, Bobby?
Several weeks.
Right, several weeks.
We have the Marauders, as always, doing their every other week Midnight Marauder ride. One's coming up February 28th and another on March 7th. There is an art opening on March 8th it's called The Textures of the City, and it's hosted by Collected Detroit. That, I believe, starts at 6 o'clock, is located at 2439 4th Street, 48201. Definitely go check out some local artists in that opening art exhibition. Clinton Township, I believe, has the 4th annual Fatty Tuesday ride on March 5th for fat bikes.
Is it that time already?
Yeah, it's coming up. I'm sorry, that Milford Central Park, that's at 6 o'clock on March 5th, but it's the 4th annual Fatty Tuesday bike ride.
Nice, man. Nice stuff. All right, so we want to talk about our favorite 3 things.
Yeah, that's right.
Is that what we're up to, guys?
3 things this week. It's going to be a little art-related 3 things. What's your favorite art piece in the city of Detroit?
Public art.
Public art in
the city of Detroit.
Yes,
so,
yes.
We have our guest Lisa and Adriel sticking in.
Yeah, you can kick in anytime you guys want.
Does that mean tags? Or do we mean no?
Okay.
No. If you feel it that way.
So we actually had this discussion. We were like, does that? One of the criteria for our discussion, the parameters was more permanent.
Okay,
right. Something that's not going to.
There's tons of murals.
And we love them all.
And we love them all. Some of them are our friends.
Right.
So we decided to go with something more permanent.
Gotcha.
So I began with a piece that I've always liked on so many levels, and that's Rodin's Thinker outside the DIA. It was first installed in 1902. And, it's a symbol of a naked man, kneeling with his, his hand on his chin, and he's sitting on a rock. And it was done, it's done in bronze. And there were 12 original pieces cast, and Detroit has one of them.
Oh, really? I didn't
Right.
know that.
He supervised the production of 12 of them.
Oh.
And there are others, but he wasn't there while they were being made. There's a couple of reasons I like him. It's neoclassic. Like at his time, nobody appreciated him. Until he was later in his life, did people be like, oh, wait a minute, that's cool now that you're old, So I like that part of it. I like the part that he didn't care that people didn't like his art. He still did himself. And it's thought to be part of his, it was part of the original piece of his Gates of Hell work. And so it's really Dante Alighieri, the character from the Divine Comedies, right? The, in this case, the Inferno, Dante's Inferno, and he's sitting there pondering,
okay.
dude, you just went through all the levels of hell.
Any of this.
You went through all the levels of hell.
Bruno's full of
I was like
information.
rethinking
Yeah, so that's for me. I got to be honest, man. That's my piece. I like thinking, I like philosophy, and I like the idea of him fighting the norm.
Right.
So, what you got, Bobby?
Mine, I'm following that. I'm sorry, y'all. I was keeping it simple. I was gonna go back to our home where we always meet, our home away from home, the main branch, Detroit Public Library. That building
right across the street, bro.
is been there. I have days of, childhood visits in the library, just the amass amount of books and knowledge that is in there. Right. There are art pieces in there, the way it's built. There's some nooks and crannies you don't even realize sometimes when you're just traversing the library. Right. The things that they offer, where it's located. And the history behind it, I implore everybody to go check it out. It's moved, it's not always been where it's at, so you don't really realize that.
Really?
Yeah, it hasn't been on where, started. I'm not gonna go into all the details, but I want folks to definitely.
I did not expect to learn anything.
Thank you for setting the bar so low. We're glad we
No,
you just blown me away. I had no idea. Let's see what Henry has.
No, for me, the library has always been a beautiful spot. It was definitely a hard choice because there are several great architectural buildings throughout the city.
Right.
And for me, it's when we go in there and we meet, it's hard to not just walk around and look, and look. And it's free. Like it's free. Like go get yourself a library card, please. Please do. It's so beneficial. So beneficial. Henry?
What you got, Henry?
Man, so, I had a couple. Initially, I was just thinking of this mural, that mural. And then we were like, well, new parameter.
Right.
So I had to step back, and what really kind of jumped up to me, and I get to experience it bi-weekly, at least during the summer, is the Heidelberg project.
Mm-hmm.
Those who don't know, it's established in 86,
Tyrese Guyton.
by Tyrese Guyton.
Yeah, Tyrese Guyton.
It's family neighborhood.
Tyree, I'm sorry.
Right. And it's, an installation that he's been building on for 30 years now. So, and the reason why it was, easy selection is because I get to share that installation with all my tours I do out of Wheelhouse on certain tours. But that's definitely one spot that I love to take people who have not been in Detroit or unfamiliar with Detroit. And ironically, the last year and a half, Tyree has been at the installation.
In residence.
Right. Every time that I've been by. So it's even that much the next level when the tourists get to see the artist himself and talk to him. So mine would be the Heidelberg project.
It is pretty wild. Like you just pop up on it. You're like, where are these dots? Right. Oh, there's more dots.
Right.
And it's changing all the time.
Yeah.
Like you go through there like
evolving.
2 days later and something, has been moved and different.
Yes.
It's just, it's pretty powerful.
Right. And the environment, even over the seasons, the environment changes.
That makes
what you
it,
see. Like you go there in after a snow, you're like, oh, it's a little eerie, but I'm still looking at it. All these teddy bears are covered in snow. The dolls don't look the same.
I would just love to throw in. It was funny the Rodin one you said, the Thinking Man. I'm sorry, because this one is reminiscent of that. But you always saw them sort of in the same commercials. You got to have art.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But to me, the spirit
Spirit of
Yeah.
Detroit.
Right.
is, I mean, one of my, like, if I actually, for me, that symbolizes Detroit more than the Renaissance Center does, more than like all these other things. And it's always been a favorite. It's going to be my next tattoo. I'm not even kidding. Like, I've just
maybe we could do that on the show.
Yeah.
We could bring in like a famous
Just
slinger.
do it.
Right.
If you help me cover the cost of that.
Sponsored by.
Right. We'll make a whole deal. Right. But no, I think it's really funny that that it was in the 50s. I think that it came up and obviously it's so funny that it's obviously a white guy. You know what I'm saying? Holding but in one hand is the sun, and then the other hand is like a family, people. And it's just the juxtaposition of those two, the balance of it. But also just the idea of like this iconic thing being the spirit of Detroit, which though it just doesn't. I love it because it doesn't. It's so ambiguous.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Anybody can attach themselves to it and get something out of it, and it's not definitively this and that. It's not auto related, and it's not this, and it's not. But it is. To me, it's just it's actually a very spiritual thing to me.
Yeah,
from childhood on. So that's literally probably my favorite piece of art in the city.
Lisa?
Yeah, so I didn't receive the guidance that we couldn't do murals because originally my pick would be. I mean, I really love the murals on the DeQuinder Cut. I live right next to it, and I'm a runner, so I'm on the cut. At least 3 days a week.
Sure,
I'm running up and down there. So I really love the Hygienic Dress League. Face each other. It's got that gold paint, and the sun is like hitting it just right. It shines exactly. It's got this amazing hue to it. So I have to say that those are two of my favorite murals. But then when you said the spirit, Adriel, it made me think of the fist, the Joe Louis fist downtown. And I think that there are people in the region who have interpreted that as like a controversial thing, but like I love the fist that it is like this is a city.
I think that means you're not from here.
Yeah.
People that find that controversial are not.
Yeah.
They don't get it.
Well, I'm not. I grew up on just north of Flint, so I guess I didn't grow up with that baggage. But like I love it that this is like this is a strong, proud African American city. And I'm if you couldn't tell, I'm a white person. Lisa Nuszkowski might have given it away.
Check for our
everybody
photos on
our
social media.
That's always
She's
been
a sister
something.
at heart.
Yeah, that's always something that I loved about the city, and I feel like that art really embodies
great
that.
choice.
Yeah, that's a nice choice. Like if I was going to choose a mural, that would be in the tops.
Yep.
But that as a structure though too, the fist is so powerful.
Yeah.
It really is.
All right,
well, yeah. I mean, geez, thank you guys for hanging out the whole episode.
we really
appreciate
it.
I
it.
mean, you could leave that. I was like,
I know.
Good,
I
good.
could talk for another hour.
Well, as you all know, here at Detroit ByCycle, Bruno and Bobby and I, all about the love, benefits, art, culture, and all the people we meet in Detroit on bikes and beyond. Detroit ByCycle.